Okay, so another episode of R&D Meets awaits. Our first of all, I really made a big mistake there. Our fifth guest is another emerging superstar in our indie music world. One sentence and I already made a mistake. That's pretty good. A musical powerhouse from London who effortlessly blends metal, rap, and rock into a captivating and unique sound. I am thrilled to be joined by the wonderful Nick Lang. How are you, Nick?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Well, I'm just recovering from that fumble on the first on the
No one
first
noticed. It's
sentence.
fine.
That was a.
Oh,
I
mate, well,
should do
thanks for
that
having me,
again,
man.
but it's okay. I'm going to keep going. It's a podcast.
Yeah, man. Let's just
Uh,
power through.
Hopefully, people will find it quirky. um, so, if you don't know Nick, and I don't know why anyone wouldn't at this point, Nick is an incredible genre splicing singer, rapper, guitarist, songwriter, and producer based out of London. So Nick featured in our recent Sweetest Selections playlist with his amazing track Forever Tied. And really, we were so happy to get him for this episode. We've had such amazing high quality of guests so far. I would say truly exceptional. Big shout outs to Tim Matthew, aka Nevin, David from Flying Beats, and John from Whiskey Club. So no pressure, Nick.
I know,
Uh,
man. Yeah, exactly. You give them the big names. Well, I've got to try and
I'm
live up to it.
I'm sure you're going to live up to it. Live up to it. I'm definitely excited to have you on this
Cool.
little
Thanks,
program.
mate. Thanks for having me.
No, Nick is. I just discovered your music quite recently, to be honest. And then I think I left a few comments on your page, and then now you're in. Feels like I see you everywhere. You're incredible support for us in the last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You guys are smashing it.
No, man, you've been brilliant since we started to communicate via the old Facebook. Just so pleased to get you on the show. I think we've really had like four, like I said, brilliant ones so far, and I just want to keep that standard, high quality
Yeah.
conversation with really
I will
interesting
do my best,
musicians
mate.
in the
I'll do my
community.
best.
I was saying to Deanna, actually, you remind me a lot of my brother.
Oh,
Who,
wow.
yeah,
That's really
you're
cool.
kind of similar, like physically. He lives in South Africa. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah.
He left like 15 years ago.
Damn it. Yeah, it's pretty like
Um,
other side of the world, man.
yeah, yeah, and we never had, to be honest, the best relationships. I'm not going to go visit him.
Oh, mate.
C'est la vie. But let's
Yeah.
not get into my sad stories.
We'll talk about
Um,
it in a bit.
we'll come to that. I'm already just cracked. Well, this is the second rum, maybe of today. So let's see how we
That's
go.
fine, mate. We'll talk about it when you're on your third.
um, so as you know, R&D Meets, the premises of the show is to meet people from our music community, and I want to dig deeper into the life stories of those who come to speak to me. So Nick, just tell everyone about your background, where you're from, where you grew up, all that.
So I grew up in South London, but I've kind of ended up having to, well, like everyone who I grew up with, because of house prices and stuff like that, we've all moved further and further out. So most of my mates who I grew up with, we all live out in the sticks now, and I'm out in Guildford, which is like close enough to London to feel like it's still London-ish. But
Yeah.
my mates who are still in London always remind me that I'm not in London anymore. But I was always into music. I think I had a kind of weird experience of it in the sense that most of my mates weren't into what I was into. So a lot of the guys, you mentioned the song Forever Tied. That was mostly written about the guys I grew up with in my neighborhood who had a lot of my kind of like, I guess, early experiences with, life and love, crime, getting in trouble, also all of that kind of stuff. They all hated the kind of music I liked. So in a weird sort of way, it was always like my thing. And so my kind of love of heavy metal that was with me from a very early kind of stage. First time I heard Metallica, I was like, this is basically my brain now. In a way, it's kind of cool. I guess sometimes if there's something that you like that's just yours, it almost means more to you.
Yeah.
So I got into, playing the guitar, then I got into playing the drums. And I guess I just kind of naturally sang along with everything, when you're listening to it and stuff like that. So kind of got into singing as well. But then weirdly, my story's a bit odd because I got into songwriting and I played with a band with a couple of the guys at school, and we had a lot of fun and played at parties and just little stuff. And then it kind of more or less vanished. Did a couple of shows at uni with some mates that were really fun again, but everyone, we were all drinking and doing all sorts of silly things, so no one was really committed to anything. And then you finish uni, you get a job, you settle down, you start a family and all that stuff, and then suddenly you think, shit, man, I haven't done any music for like 20 years. So yeah, so I kind of fell back into it in a really odd way. Probably because it was, when you've got something in you that it's in there and it's not going away, and you're
Definitely
getting on with life, and you're finding purpose and all that kind of stuff. But there's this funny little thing in the back of your head that won't go away. So I think I always had that. And I guess it all kind of came to a head a couple of years ago, when I almost joined the band. Had a real moment of like, oh my God, this is it. It's finally happening. And then it didn't. And I think I probably had about 24 hours where I felt like the world just fell apart, because I was like, that was my shot. That was the one opportunity I had, and it's gone. And then a couple of mates were just like, mate, just get on and write, and just start doing stuff. Stop waiting around for stuff to happen. And that was life-changing, man, massively. And that's the start of everything that's happened since then.
Start of the journey you're on now. I know you told me before you're a teacher. So that you went to tell me a little about getting into that.
I think probably I always wanted a job. I never really cared much about having money. I kind of wanted enough, but I wanted to feel like I was doing something that meant something. And to feel like I was kind of giving something back. And I just kind of fell into teaching a little bit. I was really interested in like philosophy and religion, and the whole idea of like citizenship education, teaching kids about life and society and understanding their place in it. So that was about 17 years ago. So I taught philosophy and sociology for about 10 years.
Oh, nice.
Loved it, absolutely loved it. But I mean, if you know any teachers, or if anyone listening knows any teachers, man, it's like crushing as a job. And my wife's a teacher as well. And
I know that, but my ex was a teacher. She worked with autistic kids, and I mean, I know how hard that can be. I think I wish I had a teacher like you. I can say most of my teachers weren't such a cool, hip musicians, no? They were like old.
Yeah. Well, I mean, mate, I had the same experience.
I think I had one cool teacher, but I mean, he was an old grumpy bastard, to be honest. But I loved him. He was like, he knew stuff. My modern studies teacher.
What's modern studies?
Modern studies. That was like an alternative. Not an alternative, but in Scotland, you had the choice. You had geography, history, and modern studies. Those were like in one collection, and I did all three, because those were the things I went to. It was like basically politics, political science, which is what I studied briefly at university, but then I kaput.
Had enough of it.
But no, tell me more about the journey from. I mean, you said there was a rejection from a band, or I mean, what happened with that? Like,
I mean, it's an interesting one, because I mean, this all happened with guys who are friends of mine, but we kind of managed to manage it quite well. It was a sort of weird situation where there was a group of guys I knew who were already in a band, but it had gone a bit off the boil for a while. They weren't really doing much. And one of the guys in the band is a really good friend of mine, and we'd written some stuff together. So we were like, well, why don't we kind of try and resurrect this band? And so I wrote some demos with this guy, and we kind of almost pitched them to the other guys. And like I said, I think I had my heart set on it, like, shit, this is it. This is my chance. It was almost like an audition. But in the end, as a group, they decided they were going to go in a very different direction to the direction I was going to go in. And so, like I said, man, it was crushing, but my mate who I'd written all these songs with kind of rang me on the day that we talked it all out, and he was like, "Well, we're still going to do stuff, right?" Like,
yeah.
And that's the guy. I don't know if you saw. We did one song with a band called This Hollow Reality. Me and my buddy Theo, we basically did one song and loved it. And then there was a massive situation that happened around his family, and he really needed to dedicate some time to that. And I kind of, I didn't want to stand in the way of that at all. And so I kind of just said, look, take all the time you need. Like, we don't need to be doing any of this stuff. Your family needs you. And weirdly, then it was that was the motivation for me. I was like, right, well, I can just sit here for another 20 years, thinking that someone's going to randomly like call me and be like, hey, do you want to join a band? But that's not going to happen. And so a couple of mates of mine, and particularly friend Damien, who I got in touch with around that time, he was like, mate, why are you sitting around? If you can write lyrics and you can sing and you can play the guitar and you can play the drums and whatever, why are you sitting around waiting for people to call you? It's like, yeah, that's a really interesting point. So like, I think that's
a wake up call.
Yeah, massively, man. But I think again, so much of it, like I remember talking to you the other day about that whole sense of like imposter syndrome, and I've become friends with quite a few guys in metal bands recently, and now some of those friendships are really cemented. The guys I've known for years now, but for a long time, I always had this little voice in my head that's like, is this a world that you belong in? Or are you the guy who's kind of clinging onto it?
Everyone's like, who's this guy? What's he doing around
right here? That's it. And it takes quite a long time for you to think, no, like these guys actually are my friends. Like I am all right here. And I think I had the same thing with music. I just had this sense of like, if you start writing songs, people are going to be like, who the fuck are you? Like, what the fuck are you doing? And that took a really long time to overcome, to flick that switch and to be like, just get on with it. Just start doing it. And if things happen, they happen. And if they don't, they don't. And I guess if you go into,
you tried, no?
Right, that's it, man. You just go in, and as long as you go in with no false sense of, illusions of grandeur, like, oh, I'm going to be fucking selling out Wembley Arena in a year's time. Like, you just go in like, I'm going to write a song. I'm going to put a song out there, and it would be great if some people like it. Then a lot of the pressure and the fear of belonging just vanishes. And you're just someone who's just trying something out. And that mind shift changed everything.
The biggest failure is not trying, for sure. If you don't try, that's the biggest failure. And then, of course, you're going to wake up in another 20 years and go, what was I thinking? Anyway, it's not even. I mean, what for me is what I wanted to ask you actually was like, what is the biggest inspiration really? Like, was it a desire to write songs, play music, like play in front of an audience? What is the real? You said there was something deep inside that was driving you to that. What is the thing that pushed you to that? What is the thing you wanted to do most? Like, I can tell you what mine is after, but I want to.
Go on, man.
No. I mean, I wanted to hear. Well,
all right. Okay. So
you tell me, and I'll tell you mine.
All right. So I mean, I guess for me, like, it's probably a combination of a few of those things. Like, I remember being a teenager, playing a couple of gigs. I had one experience when I was in my first year at uni, and me and a little group of guys, one of whom is now like fucking in my eyes like famous. He's an incredible beatboxer, a guy called Beardy Man, who's done tours all over the place. He's won like beatboxing championships and stuff. And we used to just play songs together and just fuck around and do covers and stuff. And there was one gig we played where I played one of my songs, and to this day, it's the only time I ever did that. And stood there with my guitar and sang. And the next day, when I was in the little shop on campus, like hungover as fuck and walking around the shop trying to find some hula hoops or something, just something to eat. And I heard some dude like humming or whistling the track, and I was like, "That's my fucking song." And he saw me and he was like, "Oh shit, dude, yeah, that was your song, man. I loved it." And I was like, "Oh wow!" Like it was mind blowing.
A mind blower.
Yeah, completely. And I guess because everything, uni was just everyone's just drunk all the time and experimenting with various things, and commitment to music was pretty low down on everyone's radar, I guess. So it just kind of fell apart. But I guess I always had that in the back of my mind, that experience of playing live and having a room full of people applauding something that you've come up with, but B, just that sense of here's a random stranger who's heard something I made and it's stuck in their head, you know, and it's made them feel good because then they've seen me and they've been like, oh fuck, I love that song, you know. And yeah, I guess like that sat in my memory for like 20 years. And
if you could, I think if you have that memory of knowing that you impacted someone with your music, it's like, look, I could impact someone.
Yeah,
that one person could be another one. And
yeah, that's it, you know. And it's that sense of I think I'm motivated by all sorts of different things. There's elements of wanting to push myself to be better than I am at whatever it is I'm trying to do. There's elements of just getting shit out of my head. There's, you know, a lot of my songs are quite bleak. And I guess a lot of it is just stuff I think about that I need to do something with. I need to turn it into something positive or it's going to drive me crazy. But yeah, but always that desire, there's that little thought in the back of your head, like, you know, what if someone out there hears this song, even if it's one person, and they're like, fuck, I can really, really relate to that, you know, then it's almost like you've given them something, but they've given you something too. Like that sense of it was worth doing this, you know?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing experience if you can feel that your work is appreciated. Like to have that room full of applause or have someone cheer or whatever, you know, like really celebrate your music is a amazing feeling.
Yeah.
I've never played live. Who am I? Diana has experiences of this, and she's always got that in her mind because she's so musical and so talented with that. But me, I've never experienced. Just once, I think I mentioned it on one podcast. I used to write poems before I was writing songs. Had some friends that were leaving, a couple of girls from France and Spain, really nice girls. They were leaving Scotland, and we had a big party for them. And I wrote them a poem and read that out in front of quite a lot of people in a kitchen. I was super nervous, but at the end, like everyone cheering and applauding, and that's the only time I've ever felt that. And
so is that your motivator?
No.
Would you say that that's the thing for you?
I wouldn't. It was a beautiful experience, but it's not like it's not really. I've never wanted too much attention, but this is the thing. Of course, I want a little bit of attention. The thing about the songs, probably for me, is like wanting to say what I think about things before I die, and leave it, even if it's only a mark for someone or a few people. It's something. It'll always be there. So that was always with the poems, but poems aren't really that interesting. So songs.
Oh man, I'd love to hear them, man.
I have one book of poems. It's online. You can buy it if you want. But no,
I'm joking.
Send me a link, man. I made that like 17 years ago. Totally
Would you stand by it now? Like, do you look at it now and think, oh my God, what was I thinking? Or
I haven't read it. Well, I read some fairly recently. It's probably quite embarrassing, but definitely some
mate, send me a link, man. I'll check it out.
More or less cheesy romantic poems for girls and stuff. So humiliating. But no, I would say my motivation,
man. It's a start. It's a start of everything. And in the end, if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't be writing the songs you're writing now.
Well, I love writing. This is the thing that I enjoy. But the main motivation is for Diana, who is a musician, and she is like the one who has, like you, this unfulfilled passion to not even to perform, but just to create music. She just loves to create music. And loves the process of making the music and loves listening to her own music. And it's like, you're such a narcissist.
She's got she's got such a musical ear though, man, as well, because like the melodies that she comes up with. And I mean, I said to you the other day, like one of the things I really admire about the music you guys make is the variety and the kind of the melodies, the atmosphere, the like just the feeling, the sensation, you know, like melody is everything. Like, I mean, it sounds weird from someone who likes like deathcore.
Depending on the type of music.
right. But even then, like, I mean,
Mm.
there's an awful lot of bands who play like fucking death metal and slam and deathcore and stuff like that. And like, yeah, the vocalist might not be doing any melody, but the guitarists are, you
Mm.
know, and some of the biggest metal bands that are huge and you know, they get these massive stadiums full. The melodies are in the synths or in the guitars and things like that. You know, so melody is everything, even in music where it doesn't appear to be.
It's
And I think Deanna's got that. She has that innate sense of
she
melody,
definitely
you know, which
does,
is yeah,
but it seems to be scientific, almost like a biological process of how to construct music that doesn't annoy. You know, there's some
yeah,
songs you
yeah,
hear that are just they're annoying, and I can't explain why, but I think Deanna understands why and
yeah.
how to avoid that. Repetition is something that she really hates, I think. Um, with songs, you know, like and you know these lyrics where it's just the same lyric over and over and over or something.
Yeah. I know, yeah,
Um,
it's maddening, isn't it?
he has
But
that,
you know what, man? You sometimes you
and
do
it's the
have to
same
look
way I was
at
going to say with your music, like
mm,
the variety that you've put in. This I love this way. A few other bands I like, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. I don't know if you know them.
yeah, oh yeah, I love those
They're
guys,
so
man.
cool, no? Like this way to
Yeah.
splice the heavy metal with rock or my genre.
Yeah,
I don't
just
know,
all sorts
describe
and like
genres as so poor, but
like synths and bits of rap and bits of like yeah, I mean yeah, Dead Man don't wear plaid. I'm in touch with a couple of those guys and um yeah, I mean it's just so cool listening to their music because everything just bounces and feels great. It's a really good vibe and
mm.
you know, but it's like heavy as fuck. But then it's also like you could almost hear it in a club and yeah,
I
like I
love I
think
love
I yeah.
I love that about your music. That the change, the progression, like go through those different experiences. It never gets boring, and you've got
Yeah,
a
yeah,
really good
yeah. And
voice with it as well. So.
oh, I appreciate that, man. I mean, yeah, it's really interesting. Like, I mean, what you were saying a second ago as well about like Deanna's approach to music, the sort of science behind it. That's something I've taken much more of an interest in now. Like, I think early on when I'm sort of starting out, I'll often like if I've got a track that either I've written or someone else has written, I often tend to go with the first melody that comes to mind for the vocals and then make like little tweaks to it. But essentially, like if I hear a guitar riff, I'll just hum something along with it. And a lot of the time, like from my album, which feels like a lifetime ago now,
Hybrid
like
harmonies.
yeah, yeah, I mean, which is a year ago, but with
It's
all
a
the
good
stuff
title.
that's
I like
happened.
that.
Yeah, thanks very much. I mean, because that's what I wanted to create was this sense of like hybrid styles, but full of harmonies. And so like there's vocal harmonies, there's synth harmonies, guitar harmonies, because to me, harmonies just make everything sound good, you know, and I know you can overdo it. And a
Mm.
couple of the producers I've worked with have said to me like, mate, scale it back a bit. There's too much, you know, but that's fine. But yeah, I think there is a science element to it. And I, you know, I used to just go with the first melody that came to mind when I heard a riff. I'd be like, bam, that's what I'm going to sing over it. And then there's a few bands that I listen to, particularly there's like a Danish kind of really amazing. They're like one of my favorite bands, a band called Siamese, who do this kind of really accessible metalcore
Mm.
sound, which is like heavy as fuck sometimes. But every chorus is like an anthem, you know. And if you strip back all the guitars and just put a piano on it, it could be a pop song. But then
Mm.
you put in a bunch of massive guitars and big synths and stuff, and it's metal as fuck. And I spent loads of time listening to them and being like, what is it about their choruses that gets stuck in my head for days? Like, and so now I do still tend to go with my first instinct, but I will sit and I'll tweak and I'll change and I'll improve and I'll think, right, you know, this needs to not go down there. It needs to go up, you know, or that harmony isn't going to work because I want this to be more like that. And you almost have to take a bit of gut instinct and then apply a load of science. And
How do you
mm,
how do you do all of that at once? I can't imagine.
oh, like overtime.
I mean, it must be
And
crazy on the
with
yeah.
beer helps.
It must be quite difficult, challenging to like come up with a harmony, come up with a melody, come up with lyrics, come up with production. Like you're doing
Yeah.
everything. Your head must get messed up thinking about all these different.
I think you do it a bit like one step at a time. So it's
Mm.
like, you know, start for me, it's like start with a drum beat, something that I can get into. then think about a bass line and a guitar riff that I can put on top of that that's going to put the feel I want. You know, is it going to be a heavy kind of chuggy metal riff? Is it going to be something a bit funkier, like a kind of Rage Against the Machine style thing? Or is it going to be kind of old school Linkin Park? Or are you going to try and do something a bit more interesting and modern and different? And once you've got that, like, I guess that's one of the things. If you're writing for a rap or scream section, you don't think about melody. You're just thinking about rhythm and words. Like, what am I trying to say? And what's my timing? And I was chatting to a guy. I'm working on a track currently. We haven't got too far in it, but it's like a big plan. There's an American rapper called Jar Work who is fucking amazing. He's one of those dudes who, when he messaged me and was like, "Do you want to work on a track together?" I was like, "Yes, please," because he's really, really amazing. And I've realized that me and him have a similar process that I didn't even realize, in a sense that I've got my track, I've got my drum beat, my bass line. And before I've even written any words, you're sitting and listening to it and you're going da 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 da, and you're thinking of rhythms, you know, and then you're starting to like try and think, how can I mix this up? And then it's like, right, now I have a framework. Now I can start writing some words for it, you know, and it can work that way. But then flip that on its head completely. I was chatting to my wife earlier or yesterday. Have you ever seen? I'm really into my zombie films, and there was a kind of like romantic comedy zombie movie a few years ago called Warm Bodies, and I watched it at like 2 a.m. on my own when I was drunk, and it just got to me emotionally. I can't really explain it, and I sat after it when the credits rolled. I'm sitting there like like crying. And I like picked up a notepad and pen, and I basically wrote the lyrics for an entire song in about 20 minutes. So sometimes it's really organic and it's just like,
can go the other way. That's what I was going to ask you, because I write lyrics and then give them to Deanna, and she'll make the song based on the lyrics. And I have no idea which is the preferred method. Like, I understand maybe most bands make the other stuff first, and then they like, oh, we need some lyrics. But for me, it's quite a good process to have two people working in those directions, because one person is like, the lyrics are the only thing that matter.
Right, you know, so they get your full attention.
So that the lyrics get all my attention, and then once that's gone to Deanna, and then change this. Oh, I don't like that. So it's I don't know any other way to work. It's all like a bit of I'd say a comedy for me to be involved in this, you know, like making songs.
No, mate, it's great, man. And
it's so cool to learn from people like you, because really I have such I'm not going to say I don't know anything about music, but like the technology behind the production, even describing it, it's very difficult for me. Like, I was never into NME and, you know, all these music magazines. I used to hate music reviews as a writer. I really dislike music reviews. So, and
then bizarrely, you're really good at them.
No, like they were all so pretentious. Always, you would read these guys describing like great artists and how their band or their album is 2 stars and they're full of shit for trying to make. And it's like, who are you to describe these people's work? Music is very, very subjective, and it's very difficult to try to gauge the meaning of a song, especially when you get it wrong. You get it wrong. And you look, and it's so pointless because
but a lot of it's down to interpretation, isn't it, man? I mean, like a great example of that is so one of the bands that I've been into for quite a long time, Sleep Token, who, when I got into them a few years ago, were quite small but had a very obsessive little fan base, and now they're fucking massive. They're like one of the biggest kind of alternative metal bands in the world, and there's a whole like lore behind it and blah blah blah. One of the things that I find really kind of cool and entertaining at the same time about it is that, you know, there are chat rooms and forums and blogs that are filled with people arguing about what the songs mean, you know, and it's so down to interpretation. There are songs that some people listen to and they're like, you know, this is a really deep insight into a guy who's who's wrestling with his personal demons and he's trying to overcome his mental health. And then another person's like, no, man, that's a breakup song. What the fuck are you talking about? You know? And then
Well, it's
someone else
crazy.
is like, oh,
I didn't know that. That
yeah,
people, I mean,
yeah, yeah.
obviously people discuss these things, but yeah, to really, for me, it's so pointless because you can never know unless it's like very obvious.
Right.
Basically, it's silly to try and work out the lyrics. I do this with David Bowie,
Yeah.
like for example, his lyrics are so interesting. You try to get
Mm.
the meaning, but you're never going to get there. So it's better to
Well, that's
just
it.
appreciate it and speculate in your own mind, but not. I'm never going to be convinced. I think people like to
Yeah.
argue. No, that's one of the main things.
They love it, man. And because everyone's right. It's the internet, so everyone's right.
Everyone's right.
And
I had a question in mind, but you know when these conversations and they go to another direction.
yeah, man.
Um,
So I dragged you off.
no, tell me about how you started with hybrid harmonies.
I
How
mean,
did it
as I
come to
said,
be?
yeah, that was really the culmination of me just deciding, right, I'm going to do all of this on my own. I'm just going to get on with it. And I think because I went into it with this sense of, if it's a piece of shit, it's a piece of shit, and people will let me know. Like I said, it's the internet, so everyone's right. And if it's a failure, it's a failure. But it's that sense of, it's always better to regret the things you did than the things you didn't. So I guess I went into it all with a really open mind of, I'm just going to build these tracks by myself, and I'm going to fill in any gaps and add any layers, chuck on the harmonies I want to do. It was really fun. It was a really interesting process. And as I said, my guy, Damien, he's a rapper called Nine Lives, he's got an album coming out later this year, which I'm really excited about. He was like my guru who like shepherded me through everything, the whole process. He was amazing, man. He's probably changed my whole life. But I think that album kind of springboarded me out of that sense of, you don't belong here, you don't know what you're doing. It was like, I'm just going to give it a go. And then, we talked the other day about this community, man, like getting on Facebook and Instagram and just chatting to other artists and stuff like that, and getting useful feedback, not just people going like, oh, this is great and that's great, but people actually talking about either specific things they like or things you could be doing better. And like I said, I've been a teacher for 17 years. We get observed every term. We have someone who is better than you tell you 3 times a year what you could be doing better, and so you embrace that, and you have to go into something like that with a mindset of like, I am not the finished article. I can do better at anything, but I need people to guide me sometimes.
Yeah.
And the community has been amazing. The amount of people who've given me really good tips and ideas, and
This is the amazing,
yeah, man,
thing
really
about
amazing.
the community is just the amount of people that we're getting to know who are so knowledgeable and have so much experience. It's
That's
spectacular.
right.
Diana was
It's incredible, man.
doing a music production course with people from California, and she just had a feedback session with this. I don't know who the guy was, but he sounded really cool. I was listening to it, like this is what you need, is like when you're learning a skill, is someone with more skills to tell you how you can improve your skills.
That's it.
And that kind of guidance is priceless.
It is priceless.
She was so happy to get that. It wasn't like well, she got good feedback, but she got a lot of not a lot of constructive criticism, I'd say, just a few things, but definitely things that she could use to improve certain aspects of the masterization, the mix. And so for her to learn like that from other people, you can see how valuable that is. And I think as musicians, we can have, again, I say we, I'm never going to get used to saying that.
Yeah, it is you, man.
You guys,
You're a great writer.
You guys have a lot of ego, and musicians have a lot of ego. So it's hard for people to take criticism. Like, I'm not really good at taking criticism personally, but if it comes from someone with knowledge, I'm all for it.
Yeah, you take it on the chin, man. And I think that's what's so cool about all of these bands. Yeah, exactly. It's constructive, and like I think that's the thing is people, because a lot of the people who are going into this kind of indie music community, they're people like us. We're kind of normal people. We have a normal job. We've just got creative ideas as well, and we want to use them. And so you don't get a lot of ego with that. what you get is creativity and openness and the willingness to learn, you know. And so if someone listens to a track of yours and they're like, oh, you know, I really love the chorus melody, I love the guitars you've done there, you know, the mix on the drums is shit, but blah blah blah. Then I'm like, oh, okay, right. Tell me how can I make it better? You know, like I'm not going to sit there and go, fucking not my drums. That, you know, that my drums are amazing. Like, you know, tell me what I can do better, because I want to do better. You know, and I think I've been extraordinarily fortunate, in the sense that, you know, Hybrid Harmonies was a great project, and it was something I am really proud of, but it's also something that I look back on and I know there are so many things I could do better. And I think the thing that it really did for me, other than be the first thing in my life I could tick off my bucket list, which, by the way, my bucket list had two things on it: one, make an album, and two, go to Japan. So I'm halfway through my bucket list.
What's
right?
the Japan?
Japan, I'm just a weirdly obsessive, well, in Japan they call it otaku, like people who are really obsessed with like anime. I love my Japanese food. I'm fascinated by the culture.
You should check out Wendigo Drifter. Another shout out for Wendigo. He really owes me one.
Yeah, I love those dudes. Yeah.
He just released a TikTok video. I think it was on TikTok for one of his latest tracks, and it's an anime. Japanese anime.
That's perfect.
You might
perfect. Right up my street, mate.
I don't know anything. I don't really know a lot about Japanese culture. I mean, I know the basics. I'm not completely ignorant, but I would like to go to Japan. Is one of the few places in Asia that really appeals to me. I love traveling, but I'm a bit of a, I'm not going to say a posh traveler, but I would say I'm more of a, I don't like to go to countries that could be considered a bit scary, or where you can get a lot.
It depends what you want from travel, doesn't it?
Or something, you know. Like I've been a lot around Europe, but I haven't been to South America yet. I'd like to. Not been to Asia, but yeah, Japan definitely is the one. We love sushi in this house.
Yeah. I went to Hong Kong about 17, 18 years ago.
Must be nice. Just
I loved it,
after.
Man. Yeah,
used to be
amazing.
99 changed it.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite politically messy at the moment. So
there was a lot happening there 10 years ago, and then it seemed to just like the Chinese quashed. The dissenters.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's
weird, no? How they can. That was. I remember that vaguely as a child. I was 17 at the time. I wanted to ask you, how old are you? I'm going to guess actually.
If you don't mind. Yeah, go on.
44.
Crap, that means I'm going grade too early. I'm 42.
I was going to say 42, but I thought you were Deanna's age. I gave her age away. Just with your music taste. But I'm 42 as well. No, it's not that you look 44, but really I thought you were, but because of who you were mentioning, I'm like, Nick speaks like Deanna, and she always makes out that she's a lot older than me. You know, that she comes from a different generation. I'm like, 2.5 years.
It's 2 years, right?
2.5. It's ludicrous. Or maybe it's 3 years. It's 3 years and 2 months, but what's 3 years?
That's 3 years. Yeah, exactly.
Japan. Well, you've done one of the bucket list. You've made an album.
I've done one of my bucket lists. That's it. And I think that's the thing is what was
Japan.
Really cool,
you're going to play there. No, you'll do the second part playing there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I need to play my first show in Guildford first. That's kind of found its way onto my bucket list now. Is like literally play a show at my local.
You haven't done live shows yet?
No. I mean, I haven't played in front of anyone for 22 years.
Oh.
So it feels quite frightening. But I've had this kind of goal in mind, you know, like 2 years ago I wanted to get a track out, and then a year ago I wanted to get an album done. So I've done those. This year was all about collaborating and working with some really interesting artists, and I guess that's the thing, like what Hybrid Harmonies ended up doing for me that has changed everything, I guess, is it just got other musicians being like, oh, do you want to work on something? You know, it's like a little door that opens. And in all honesty, man, like it's really funny, you know, when you get people posting on Facebook or Instagram and they're like, send me your favorite track. I'm building a playlist, you know, and you're like, I'm going to look back through it. The songs that I've done since Hybrid Harmonies are my favorite tracks. And there a lot of them are songs that I didn't do any of the music for, and which in a way I'm like, that's kind of sad. But at the same time, I'm also like, you know what, man, if you can work with someone who does all the stuff you can do better, but you can add your bit, that's great, So the songs that I've done with J.M. Falpel, Through Flames, and I always get the letters in the wrong order, TCFYD. I didn't have to do any of the music. It was all Josh's music, and his songwriting is so good. I love his solo stuff, and so when he was like, "Can you put some vocals on these?" It was great, man. It was like being a kid in a candy store. Like you just think, like I don't have to think about this. I don't have to think about that. Just do your bit, So just focus on the vocals. And I mean, thankfully, because of the way we work together, like I chopped in a load of like synths and strings and just other little layers and stuff. But that's been really satisfying, And I've got another song coming out in a couple of weeks. With an Argentinian producer, Fede, who I've done one song with already. And this dude is like one of the coolest producers and musicians I know. He can just write these fucking amazing, really modern sounding, like trap metal tracks. He'll do the guitars, the bass, the drums, like everything's done. And he's just like, put some vocals on it, and I love that. As much as I love creating tracks myself, I love that freedom of, you just do your bit.
You don't have to worry about the other part,
yeah. Just don't even worry about it. And so it's kind of weird. Like as much as I'm like super proud of the album and I love the process of putting a track together, there is a lovely element of, a really cool artist that going, here's a track. Can you just chuck on some vocals, please? I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Well, I'd love to do that if anyone out there needs some lyrics.
Yeah, dude.
Well.
Absolutely.
I was going to ask you that about how you feel about like if you're going to make another album. If you think, obviously, it's different when you're a musician and you're learning skills and you're getting more experience. So there's a natural progression that's going to come with that.
Yeah.
For me, I have a worry with lyrics. It's like I could have reached my high point. I mean, I might be on the downward trajectory. You know what I mean? It's a fear because I wrote a lot of those songs in a good short spell and I was like on a roll. Yeah. Now I haven't done anything in a long time and I think, what if that's my best work? A lot of bands have that problem. No? They write one amazing album and then the second album,
but you know what, man?
The third album,
yeah, there's a flip side to it too, man, which is like experience means a lot. And I mean, like I have this conversation with my son sometimes. So he's like 11 years old, but he's like an early 2000s emo kid. Like he's just naturally found his way. I tried to get him into death metal and failed. My wife tried to get him into pop music and failed. And he ended up finding what is slap bang in the middle, which is like Fall Out Boy and My Chemical Romance. So I'm like, that's fine. There's guitars. I'm all right with that. But he loves Green Day and he we used to talk about them a lot. And Green Day have written like 50,000 songs.
Yeah.
And within that is a ton of shit that sounds the same. And it's really uninspiring and uninteresting and really unoriginal. And yet you can pick out a couple of songs from this album, a couple of songs from that album. You're like, fuck, man, that's amazing. They come up with a Basket Case or American Idiot or When I Come Around or something like that, and you're like, that's a fucking great song. So sometimes there's the scattergun approach.
I love was it The Time of Your Life? What's it called?
Yeah. I mean, like
that song. I love that song. I know it's a famous one, but really, I loved it a lot.
It will make you sit down from whatever it was you were doing and just contemplate your life instantly. It
was in
but again,
you ever watch Seinfeld? You ever watched Seinfeld?
Not for a very long time.
No, that was in the penultimate episode of Seinfeld. They had that Green Day track, like as a tearjerker. We had The Time of Our Life.
It'll do that,
and it always breaks me because it's my favorite sitcom. I don't know, not a
Yeah,
sitcom fan. Favorite TV show of that year. I grew up on Seinfeld, and I love it. So that song always reminds me of that. Sorry
yeah,
to take you
absolutely.
off the
No, no,
topic.
no, but you're right, man, and that's the point. Is that's a song that taps in. There's another song on their album when September Ends, from American Idiot, which is it's another one of those songs.
Oh, look, if he's 11
It
and he
gets
likes Green Day, I mean that's pretty
he's
good.
doing all right.
Yeah.
He's doing all right. But my point is there's lots of different ways of approaching things. You could be a band like Tool who do an album every 10 years and it's gold, or you could be a band like Green Day who write 50,000 songs a year and a
Mm.
lot of them are shit, but some of them are great. In the end, like if you're having the thought of what if I've hit my peak or anything like that, you almost have to just get that in check and just be like, maybe we don't have a peak.
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe there's just songs I'm going to write that are great, and there's songs that I write that aren't. And even the ones I think aren't all that great, there's going to be some dude called Dave somewhere, like I don't know, in a motorway services listening to Spotify is going to be like, "Fuck, man, this song
no, for
really
sure, man.
touches me."
I didn't want to imply that I thought that I'd reached some mountainous peak,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
For sure, like we have some good songs, but it's a pressure situation when because Diana keeps
Yeah,
saying, "Where I need new lyrics, I need new lyrics." I'm like, focus on the album,
yeah,
focus on
yeah,
what we've got, because we're going to
yeah.
remaster and reproduce everything that we've done
Well,
already.
man, you guys are on a very good run of form, so try
Well,
not to doubt it.
this is the thing. Like, I don't want us to release a shit song. Don't want us to
Yeah,
release a shit song. And I said this about the album. Like, there's no filler on this album. It's going to be all hits.
yeah,
It's good to have this aspiration of of ego. It's funny to take that on if you don't
yeah.
have it
But but but
naturally.
but yeah, and in all honesty, man, like you said, like you don't want to put a song out there if you're not proud of it, you
No.
know. But then, so this is another thing I learned from Nine Lives. This guy I work with a lot, and he's a good friend. And what I love as well about him is so he's like our age, but he's been doing hip hop since he was like a teenager. This dude is like a proper lifetime rapper and a great lyricist. And he said to me when I was freaking out about hybrid harmonies, and I was going, oh, maybe we should change this. Oh, maybe that melody doesn't work. Like, oh fuck, does this need a piano part? Where he was like, dude, calm down. You know, in a year, 2 years, 3 years time, you're going to listen back to this, and there's going to be things you love about it,
And don't like.
but there's probably going to be a massive part of you that goes, well, that was shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you're developing and you're learning and you're growing. And, when the thing that completely showed me that he was so fucking right, he was so right, was, I was listening to, so there's a song, kind of, don't want to be do a cheeky little plug here, but one of my favorite artists in the community who is so other to me and my world is Ghost of Rucker. And as a lifelong metalhead, yeah, and he's this lovely dude. He's American lo-fi instrumental artist. The guy just churns out this lo-fi music, which 2 years ago, if you'd said to me, "Do you like lo-fi?" I wouldn't have even known what the fuck you were talking about.
I wouldn't know what you're
I'm
talking about.
right. I'm like, I'm a metalhead guy who loves a bit of rap and a bit of drum and bass. Lo-fi is off my radar, but this guy can just turn my brain into calm and mush. I can sit and my brain will just disappear off into the clouds when I listen to his music. And I really, really love that. And we've just done a song together. It's not going to come out for a bit, but we've been working on it for a while, and we've really enjoyed the process. And when I listen to the rap verses of that song compared to the first song I put out, 2 years ago, I'm like, I sounded shit. My rhythm was terrible. I had no flow. It was, oh my God.
No, I know about
And
that.
similarly, right. And so, there's I've got the next song that's coming out in a couple of weeks. It's a trap metal track. There's a bit of screaming on it, bit of singing on it, stuff like that. And again, when I listen to the first song that I put some screaming on, and I listen to it, I'm like, it sounds fucking awful, man. And so, yeah, I think it's really important. Like, don't put out anything that doesn't make you feel like I'm happy with that. And there's a part of me that's proud of that.
Hmm.
But at the same time, be prepared for the fact that in a couple of years you're going to listen back to it and be like, well, that's shit,
Well,
you know?
both of my songs, I think that already. I mean, the first one was just terrible, the singing. The second one's a little bit better, but it's still not very good. Ghost of Rucker,
But some of that's because you're
they're on my
developing, you know?
playlist. I put a Ghost of Rucker song on my playlist last week, 2 weeks ago, and I
Yeah.
can't remember which one because I cannot keep all the names of all the bands.
Right.
I know
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
impossible. Like I've got about 40 probably that are in my head, and then when I take on new ones, because I'm making these
Yeah.
playlists, and
Well, mate, do you know what?
I
That's
know the
one thing
name and I
about,
know that I had them, but I don't know which
yeah,
song.
yeah, yeah, definitely, man. The thing that's so funny, man, about the fact that we listen to so much music now, particularly being part of this community. There are so many bands. That whole thing, like in the metal community, there's this big, like seeing someone with a t-shirt of a band and saying like, name three songs, and and that's the sense of like, oh, you either know the band or you're not, or you're just a try hard, but you like the t-shirt. And actually, man, I listen to so many bands now, so many songs while I'm doing shit. So I'm driving, or I'm cooking, or I'm, playing a silly game with my kids. And so there's a shitload of artists where like I could sing most of their songs. I can hum more or less every melody on any of the things. But if you suddenly sat me down and goes, right, name me three of their songs.
Mm,
And I don't fucking know what their songs are called. I love them,
it's
but I
different.
don't know what the
Simple
fuck they're
that.
called.
Well, sometimes you're doing something and you're like, oh shit, that's a really good song. I want to have to run back to the laptop and see who it is because then it
Yeah.
disappears, and you don't know who it was.
And then it's gone. Yeah.
I'm quite good at remembering names because I was a football fanatic. So I
Okay.
know a lot of football players, like thousands from 30, 40, 50 years in the past. So when I start learning
Yeah.
names, I'm quite good at it, but the song titles don't,
Right.
that's
This is what I'm
pretty,
saying. So
pretty difficult.
I think we need to end the whole name
Even with
three
my
songs thing,
favorite
man.
bands, I struggle
Right.
with that.
This is it,
Um,
man.
what about what are the plans then? You said you've got this with Ghost of Rock. Are you going to do a new album? Is that in the pipeline?
Um, so I think the plan is I'm going to finish off this year doing some more collaborations. There's a couple of guys I'm really looking forward to working with. People I'm talking to. I mentioned Joe Work earlier, who's just this fucking great rapper. Really looking forward to working with him. We've got a little track that we think we both quite like, so we might do something on that. There's a solo metal guy called The Abstraction, who any metal fans who watch this, they need to check out because he is fucking phenomenal. And again, we're just talking. We're at that point where we're like, might be quite fun to do something together. So I think I'm putting any ideas of an album kind of to one side.
Mhm.
I'm loving. I haven't even mentioned. So there's a hip hop group in Canada called Northeast Beats, who were one of the first artists that I found when I started like fully delving into the kind of indie music community, because I heard them and I was like, fuck, man, that's my kind of hip hop. I love it. And over the last year, we've been talking more and more, and we've worked on a few tracks together.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a couple of really exciting things coming out of them over the next few months. And so I'm super excited about all that.
Wow.
So yeah, album ideas are like shelved.
Well,
Like I'm just, yeah,
this is one of the nice things about the community is doing these collaborations. I will
yeah.
drop a little plug for R&D now, and a little surprise is that while Deanna's working on a collab right now with Wendigo Drifter,
Oh
and
yes.
and it is taking a long time, let me tell you. She's been
It will
working
be
on
worth
this.
it, man.
She's been working on this longer than any of the songs that we worked on.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
we,
you want to get it
I mean,
right.
we're so proud of it because we just like I was discovered Wendigo probably through Tim's EWL show,
Yeah.
and I just reached out to him because I read his story. I read the story about his band on Spotify, and I read about his brother who had
Yeah.
passed away. So I just reached out to him, and I said to him actually because I had lived with a band with a similar story. The lead singer committed suicide, guy from Scotland,
Yeah.
Frightened Rabbit. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're pretty
Mm.
big. So that's how we connected. And then we loved it. Like, I was like, man, your music, genuinely, we were addicted to that music, or we still are.
Yeah.
So then we got to talking a little bit through email, and then he started talking to Yana, and now they're working on one of a pretty good song. I've heard it a lot.
That's so cool, man.
So that's in the pipeline. So like you say, those things can put you off doing the things that you plan to do.
Yeah.
And of course you're going to do them
way.
because it's such a talented guy that wants to work. And you're like, what are you
But that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that's been so mind blowing, man. Is it's like there are guys who a year ago, when I was promoting Hybrid Harmonies and just trying to put my name out there, and there were artists that I came across that I was like, wow, these guys are great. You know, or this rapper's amazing, or that singer's great, or this band's awesome. And then to think that a year later I would have done a song with them, you know, or we'd be writing it like, yeah, it's mad.
It's mind blowing.
But it's so exciting, and that's why it's great that I am so happy to just park any shit that I had in mind. I'm like, you know, if this person wants to write a song with me, fucking, I'm on it. I'm all over it. Like, that's so exciting. And yeah, Windigo Drifter, like I've been following them for quite a long time, and I'd heard bits and bobs. But I remember when you mentioned them the other day, I was like, do you know what, man? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to listen to that album. And I'm so glad that I did, because it's fucking phenomenal. It's such a good album, and it's not my like style of
it's not even my style either.
Oh, but dude, yeah, so powerful, man. So emotional. Just yeah, amazing. So I'm stoked for you, man. That's great.
Yeah, man. We covered his one of their tracks first. I asked him, can we cover this? Diana really wants to do it, and he agreed. And that went down really well. With everyone, I think. So yeah. Now, this one, I'm not going to say more about this one. There's a couple of
no worries.
surprises. Diana will kill me for giving away the details. But yeah, that's going to be super cool. And yeah,
you've got to get people interested, man. That's exciting.
If people want to work with you, that's definitely a good sign. Like that you know, and you've come so far in such a short time with what you've done. I think, and there's such a positive vibes coming from you, man. Like I think we can all learn a lot in the community from that.
I appreciate it, dude. And to be honest, like the thing that's been so great and the thing that has made me feel so welcome is that you just get this sense of like no ego, no bullshit. This is normal people, you know, and it's almost like walking into a room of strangers and being like, fuck, I don't know anyone here, you know, which would be enough to trigger an awful lot of anxiety. And then it just turns out that everyone's really nice. And everyone turns around and goes, oh, hey, you know, my name's whatever. Like, what do you do? And you're like, oh, these people are taking an interest in me. And that's what's happened with this community. People are just like, oh, shit, man, I heard that song of yours. I really liked it. And you're like, that's weird, because I heard your new single last week. It's fucking amazing. And so it's this little community of just nice people in a room. And even though the room's getting bigger, that feeling hasn't left, you know.
That's part of the fun,
great.
I like the podcast aspect as well. Like I think people doing interviews and stuff like that gives you the sense that you are doing something with like people are interested, you want to speak about it, people want to hear about it.
Yeah, man.
All of that,
and everyone is
the internet side of it, the Facebook, all of that aspect gives this interesting feel. I think it gives there's more to it than just being at home doing music. You know, it makes you feel like you're in your own little world of like not being famous but being appreciated. Something.
Right. So, absolutely, man. And you feel like you're part of something. And you know, the guys who were at the center of all of that. I mean, you mentioned the EWL review show, and yourselves, you know, Whiskey Club, Burles Band, you know, Vox and Sticks, and you know, you've got these guys who are like these little shining beacons of the community that just pull us all together, and it just makes us all stronger. And as I say, for me, as in my head, I'm a 42-year-old maths teacher, you know, and dad, and yet within this community, it makes you feel like I'm a legitimate musician.
You're a little bit like a rock star, no? A little bit.
Yeah, like a weird little maths teaching rock star.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? but I'll take that.
Oh man, it's can you imagine it's already been an hour?
Yeah, I know. I just noticed that. I was like, oh shit, okay, better go. I promised my wife that we would be done in time for us to hang out and try and watch a movie.
I also have some time restrictions, but it's been so nice to talk to you, man. Like seriously,
Yeah, you too,
I don't
man.
think we covered even. It's when in this podcast. And now I understand why they do 3 hours because I
Yeah,
only
yeah, yeah.
scratched
Because
the
you could just
surface
keep
with you.
going.
There's a lot more I wanted to talk to you about. Like we talked about music, but then, like always, I said I never get to talk about these other things that I wanted to
Ah,
speak
it's fine,
about.
man. We got other
Because
times. We're all good. You got my
I'm gonna
number
have
anyway.
definitely, man. We're gonna keep in touch.
Yeah.
I'm really delighted to have such a amazing guests. Really, I think we're on a
Ah,
roll. I think you've been
yeah.
super nice with everything you've told us today. Really informative, really
Thank you very much,
knowledgeable.
man. I
You know
really
your
appreciate
stuff.
that.
You definitely know your stuff. You've got a lot of talent, man, and we're completely behind you. And if you've got a new
Cheers.
track coming out, I'll review it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I appreciate it, man. Well, listen, the next one's a really important one because we're going to make it into a charity event as well. Because it's a
awesome.
song. I won't go into too much now, but yeah, it's quite a brutal song about a kid living in a house where parents' relationship has become really toxic. It's become quite abusive. And me and Fedi were talking about it. I was like, dude, what if we said, don't worry about Spotify streams. What if we just tell everybody to download this on Bandcamp and we take every penny that we get from that and we give it to the NSPCC, to a UK children's charity that helps kids, who've been through traumatic situations. We're like, yeah, fuck it, man. Let's make it a charity event, and if we get 50 quid or 500 quid, it doesn't matter. It's something positive. And so when that song comes out in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be spamming the shit out of everybody
Mhm.
to just be like, don't worry about streaming it. Don't worry about playlists and all that shit. If you want to do something really positive, download it. And every single penny that we get, we're going to give straight to charity. So yeah, I'll be
That's awesome,
bothering
man.
everyone about that in a couple of weeks.
I'll be sharing that. I'll be promoting that for you as well.
Thank you,
Don't
man.
worry.
Appreciate
No,
it.
that's a really good cause. And also maybe helps you get a few extra listeners, people
Yeah,
want
you
to.
never know. You never know. It just felt,
No,
let's do something positive, something that
no,
means something.
that's so good, man. I'm really
Yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you today. It's been so cool. I'm disappointed I have to let you go.
Ah, mate, it's
Um,
all good. I kind of need the
but
toilet
maybe
anyway.
I spoke to you before about having you on for a special episode. Um, you spoke about obviously your work. So I
Yeah,
think you could be a
dude,
great guest for
absolutely.
that. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
keep
yeah.
that in the pipeline.
Yeah, yeah. And
It's coming
anything.
soon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please, man. I'll be there. I'll be there with bells on.
Awesome.
All right,
So
mate. Well, listen, take care of yourself, man. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
if where can people find you? Is there anything you want me to share? This is something I haven't done before, and I think I need to do it more with the guests. Like, is there
I don't know. I guess lots of people already who might be watching
it's
it
Nick
already know
Lang
me on.
UK on Facebook?
Yeah,
Um,
Instagram, Spotify. I haven't paid too much attention to YouTube, so yeah,
do you
and
need a music video?
I haven't really done any of that yet. I feel like I
That
should, but it
that's
costs too
what
much money.
that's the other part that I do. I write the lyrics and I make the music videos or the lyric
Ah,
videos.
all right. Well, I need to talk to
I'm
you then.
responsible for those. So yeah, that's fun. That's a fun thing.
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
It's been so great talking to you, man. So I will speak to you soon.